He was born and bred in Mufakos, where football was the natural choice for most kids growing up in this high-density suburb of Harare. But, Kuda Mutenda did not go by the wind, as he fell in love with rugby, instead. Of course, Mufakos is a suburb that is famous for producing great footballers like the late Joel Jubilee Shombo, Stanley Simeon Dundama, late, Achifad Cheuchi Kaimatanda, late, Clayton Munemo, Memory Muchera Hoa, Mike Mapurigwu Abrahams, Charles Star Black Cask and Karma Billiot. But, not all kids liked football. Back in the 1990s and early 2000s, various sports programs promoted the growth of other minority sports like tennis and rugby in the high-density suburbs. That's how Mutenda was exposed to rugby. By the time he enrolled with Prince Edward for his high school education, Mutenda was not only an ardent rugby fan but a player as well. Sadly, his career was cut short at 16, thanks to a nasty ankle injury. But it was only his playing career that ended and not his vision. I always had this desire to have as many people as possible playing rugby, he says. When we were growing up there was a lot of rugby in schools and the facilities were there. Back in the 1990s, there were over 50 schools in Zimbabwe playing competitive rugby. Schools like Mutare Boys, Plumtree, Allen Wilson, Milton, Churchill, Lomagandi, Chinhoyi, Prince Edward, Cranbourne High, Morgan High, Lord Malvern, Oriel Boys High and Ellis Robbins played some nice rugby. There was always a debate on which team would win a match. Because the facilities which were there, rugby was played in most government schools, and that increased the pool of players playing rugby across the country, reckons Mutenda. Sadly, a handful of schools now play the game competitively. Prince Edward, St George's, St John's, Peterhouse, Falcon, Lomagandi, and Churchill are some of the few schools still in the game. This is not ideal because rugby should be for all. It's not an elite sport, it should be a mass sport, remarked Mutenda. After years of traveling across the globe, and gaining more exposure to proper rugby development systems, Mutenda is now embarking on a journey that seeks to return rugby to the people. He is the man behind the upcoming Mwana Group International Rugby Festival which kicks off at Prince Edward next Sunday. Over 120 primary and secondary schools will converge at Prince Edward for the week-long tournament that will be capped by the Sables' first match at home in about 3 years. Zimbabwe will play Zambia in a Trans-Zambezi derby, to draw the curtain down on what looks to be an exciting rugby fiesta. The school's rugby festival has a rich history in the country. From the 1980s when the United Bottling Company used to bankroll the event, up to 2019 when the festival was sponsored by Dairy Board. In between, there was the David Whitehead Rugby Festival, 1988 to 1997, and the popular Kotko Rugby Festival, 1998 to 2013.